right, Steve, you got a hand for us?
I do.
Okay.
It it's a home game, eight-handed, 2-5, 200 to 800 buy-in. Effective stack is 610. By villain one, I have him covered. There's two villains. I have them both covered.
Okay. And this is going to be a limp pot, right? If I remember, how else would you be in there with Jack 3?
Right. I'm
Yeah.
the button straddler.
Right, right, right. So you're
Jack of clubs, three of spades.
okay. So it's 2, 5, 10, and you're on the button straddled with Jack 3 off, right?
Correct.
Jack of clubs, 3 of spades. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So obviously, do the people in the blinds go first? The small blind acts first?
Yes.
Okay.
There's three limpers,
Mm-hmm.
and I obviously check.
Okay. So hero checks. Is every hand button straddled, by the way?
No, maybe about 25%.
Okay. I mean, I've talked about this before. I'm not a huge fan of the button straddle and hold 'em. I think it tends to kill the game a little bit because it forces the blinds to play proper. Straddling from under the gun is fine, but I mean that's just sort of what I have seen in terms of a button straddle. Button straddle, putting in more money in position on the button. You can debate whether or not it's actually profitable for the straddler in position or not because he's putting in twice as much dead money, but it still, I think, kind of tends to kill the game. But okay, so now we're 4 ways, including you. So it's probably like $40 in there, right?
Right. There's
Okay.
three limpers plus
Okay.
me. I normally don't button straddle,
Hmm.
but it was getting late and I was down and I just wanted to increase the size of the game a little bit.
Okay. So what's the flop?
All right. The flop is Jack of diamonds,
Hmm.
eight of spades, three of hearts.
So you flop top and bottom here.
Correct.
Okay. And
Big blind, who's villain two, checks. MP2 leads out for 20. It's folded to me, and I make it 50.
so big blind, who was one of the limpers, again, because of the button straddle. I mean, he had to complete at least. So we'll put in big blind +2 and somebody else limped in from up front. +2 bets 20. Somebody probably folds in between. And you make it 50. It's not a super draw heavy board, but why did you decide to make it sort of so small?
Huh? I, that's just what my gut said to do.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, so when +2 bets here, I don't. So was there a guy in between you and +2, or did it go check check to +2?
Yes, there was a guy in, but when he bet 20,
The
the
other
guy
guy
in
folded.
between folded.
Right. So, I mean, he's betting into two people, right, in position that have position over him, you and this other guy in between that folds. So, I mean, there's not that many draws out there besides like 9, 10. I mean, I would tend to think that he has a jack here quite a bit. And I would just I would start building and hope he has like queen, jack, king, jack. I'd probably make it 80, 85 at a minimum. And again, it's not protection for draws. It's just I'm trying to get the most amount of value. And I mean, I do like the fact that you raise, but I just would have taken a larger sizing. So you make it 50, okay?
The big blind calls, and the MP2 calls.
So the big blind calls, so he checks and then calls, right?
Correct.
So big blind cold calls and +1 calls. So what do you think the big blind has here? This is interesting.
Well, he's a weak, tight player,
Mm-hmm.
and I would think he has a jack or maybe 10-9.
So he can have a jack here that he might be checking. I mean, you did make it small because, I think if you made it sort of a more standard raise, and again, he did complete though too, so he's not entirely random. I was gonna say if you made a more standard raise, maybe he would just fold out a single pair of jack that he was in there random with like Jack 4, but he did complete. So I mean, maybe he could have like Jack 4 suited or something like that, but he did complete as a VPIP. Or so 9-10, maybe a Jack like King Jack that he's just like, he wasn't going to bet it. Or he's sandbagging something, right? Pocket 8s, pocket 3s, but of course you block pocket 3s. So that's what I would be thinking of. The other guy also overcalled. You obviously have to be aware of 9-10. You could very well still have the best hand here. And I think you do probably a vast majority of the time with the fact that you block that stuff. I mean, he might show up with 8-8 once in a while, but just be cognizant of the 7 and the queen, I think, coming is kind of how I would approach the turn here. And it looks like it's a hair under 200, so we're 190 to the turn. What's the turn here?
The turn is the 6 of hearts.
Okay. 6 of hearts. Distribution of the suits: Jack of diamonds, 8 of spades, 3 of hearts, 6 of hearts. So Jack X of hearts and 8X of hearts are possible. Hero does not have the Jack of hearts. That's what I'm always thinking about on rainbow boards as as a backdoor draw comes about. Does it get checked over to you now?
It does, and I bet 100.
So check. Hero bets 100. Kind of on the small. I mean, it's half the size of the pot. I probably would go 130 or 140 here, just a little bit subtle because the 6 just doesn't really change anything. Now, maybe if you make the case, well, if I really pound on the guy's gonna, fold the Jack. One of these guys is gonna fold the Jack, and I look very strong when I raise and then bet into the 2 people. That's true, but it's a home game. And I'm trying to go for maximum value basically all the time. That's probably why I would go 130. But okay, so you go 100, okay.
And they both call.
They both call again.
Yep.
Wow. All right. This is why I love me some limped pots. Love me some limped pots. So big blind calls and +2 calls. So now we put 300 in on the turn. 490. And by the way, you only have, I say only, but I mean, you started with 610, so you have less than a pot size bet left, right?
No, 610 is the effective stack. That's the MP2, which I
Okay.
can only bet that amount.
Right. That's what I mean by, it would be less than a pot size bet, with the effective stack. Let me ask you this question, Steve. If the river was you haven't told us the river. I'm just saying, like, say the river is like a deuce, an offsuit deuce, or something like that, or an offsuit 5. Are you going to try to bet for value here at the end?
I don't think so.
Really?
When both of them call the 100, especially, I'm really more worried about the big blind. He might have the best hand.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not a Jack or a 3, I was planning on checking.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where there's probably not a lot of great rivers for you here, because even if it's a 10, a queen, a king, an ace, you start to get concerned about kickers. And then obviously too, any overcard above a Jack that doesn't improve somebody to 9-10 or give them 2 pair, it's going to mean that they're less likely to call you with just the Jack with the amount of strength that you've shown. But there are a couple of very blank rivers. Like I said, I think a deuce, a 4, or a 5 are the ones that I'd still bet, at the end. Obviously, if a Jack comes, it's awesome, right, for you, or a 3 too. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. But okay, so 490, what's the river here?
The river is the 9 of spades.
9 of spades. Okay, so Jack 8, 3, 6, 9. And obviously, like 9-10 would be paired up. I don't think it's the worst card here. Is there any type of double gutter stuff going on here? Queen 10 is a gut shot to a 9, but it doesn't pick up anything unless it's Queen 10 of hearts. So a Queen 10 straight comes in. and a 7-10 straight comes in, and a 5-7 comes in, but 7-10's not going to be in there, 5-7's not going to be there, only specifically Queen 10 of hearts. And obviously you lose to Jack 9, but I don't know. I got to be honest with you. If it gets checked to you here, this actually might be another one where I might bet. I said deuce 3, 4, 5. This one is kind of close here too. So what happens here at the end?
Big blind checks and villain 1 shoves for 450.
So the big blind, I'm just going to trying to adjust so that my box doesn't get in the way here. Okay. So the big blind checks and +2 shoves for what, in essence, 460 or something like that, right?
450.
450. Well, I mean, I just talked about what is the 9 change. Before we even got to this point. So what are you scared of here?
That this guy is a very loose player. He could be easily in with Queen 10, especially if it's hearts. But he might be in with Queen 10 even if it's not hearts. But he could have Jack 9.
Is he going to play Jack 9 this way, though? Oh, by the way, too, this is why I love the interaction in the chat. One thing that I did wash over here, which I should have said earlier on, of course, the big blind completes. It's a button straddle. You raise the flop. Those guys from up front can sometimes have overpairs here, too, going for a limp re-raise that they didn't get. Like the guy in the big blind, not crazy for him to show up aces and kings trying to get a limp re-raise in. So I did wash over that. But going back to this guy from +2 who shoves, I don't know if just Jack 9 suddenly does that. Because he'd have to bet, he'd have to call your raise. Remember, the big blind overcall. The big blind called in between. Remember, he bet the flop, you raised, big blind called. He had to overcall with Jack 9. Overcall again on the turn with Jack 9. 100 call. And now just upfront donk shove Jack 9. I find it a little bit hard to believe. Now, Queen 10, maybe, if it's just Queen 10 of hearts, a lot of guys don't necessarily find that bet on the flop a ton either in a limp pot. I mean, it's not a bad bet to make, but that's kind of my views. But I would be very, very surprised of Jack 9. But you're saying that you're a little bit concerned about Queen 10 too?
Yes.
Do you think he calls on the turn if he didn't pick up hearts?
He could, but he might have picked up hearts.
Well, right. He might have picked up hearts. Right. You lose to Queen 10 of hearts. I mean, we said that. That's one combo. Now,
but this guy is certainly capable of calling the turn with just the gut shot and an overcard.
You mean like capable, meaning bad enough?
Yes.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Steve. If he's bad enough to do that, though, I can't give him credit. I'm not going to make if he's bad enough to do that, I'm not making hero laydowns against a guy that really is bad enough to make that play. The only thing that's of a little bit of concern is the other draws like 9-10 and stuff get paired, and traditionally people don't turn those into bluffs. The only time that I would ever fold this hand against somebody that I deemed bad would be a guy who would be incredibly passive bad, meaning that the guy literally never bluffs ever in his life. And when he bets it, he just always has it. And that's a deviation we can make. But if that's not the case with this guy, then I think I'm going to call here.
Well, I'd never seen him bluff. It's the first time I played with him, but I've played with him for a few hours. But he has made some really bad calls.
Mm-hmm.
Preflop, flop, and turn. I ended up folding.
Really? Wow.
And the big blind, who I found out later had 9-10 of hearts.
Mm-hmm. So he folds too, right?
He made a pair, but he ended up folding.
So big blind folds, 9 of hearts, 10 of hearts, 9 of hearts. And of course, you do have the big blind behind you if you thought he was somehow sandbagging. So did you find out what the guy had?
I did. It was a bluff.
Well, he can't have Queen 10 of hearts, right? Because the other guy's got 9-10 hearts. What was the bluff?
He had Ace-8 offsuit.
Oh, ace-8 offsuit. Oh, Steve, that's brutal. But I'm sure you can get on board with what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I understand. I thought I had showed enough strength
Yeah.
that he wouldn't just bluff that hand. I mean, why is he even in?
Right. Well, live and learn. Live and learn. Again,
Yes.
capable meaning bad. Thanks for the call, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.